Welcome back, and thank you for listening to my podcast this week and maybe checking out this video, either media platform you're using right now. I'm really excited for today just because I think last week I talked your ear off a little bit in terms of the differences between folks that are HSPs, highly sensitive people that are empathic, people that are intuitive, and psychic. So I really wanted to break these things down for you all so that way there was a sense of identifying where am I on the spectrum and how do I work with the knowledge, awareness, experiences I've had based off of this. So this entire series is going to be a mini series, like I said, and we're really going to focus on for the next couple episodes of what to do when you've identified your whole life or just starting to kind of recognize that you have a lot of empathic abilities. And so again, just taking a step back here, folks that experience and identify with empathy and being really empathetic and, kind of take on the role of empath tend to be folks that are feeling and exchanging and absorbing a lot of energy. They feel what other people feel and are often influenced by how other people feel and how other things in the environment feel. And to be honest, sometimes being an empath when you're not empowered means that you're constantly feeling unbalanced. And the tricky part is that if you're constantly feeling imbalanced, you're always trying to correct it in some way. And what I found is being an empath, if I'm not actually empowered in my empathy and I'm trying to re-correct it in a different way, my nervous system might not actually be regulating in the ways that I wanted. I might be choosing or doing or building certain thought patterns that aren't actually helping me feel balanced and empowered and sovereign in these empathic abilities. So today I'm going to kind of fill your ear a little bit more with information, but I would say about half, hopefully, if I do timing correctly here, will probably be jumping into a specific skill that I teach folks how to kind of look at the energy in your space to get more clarity around, is this my energy or is this someone else's energy? And that's kind of a big question oftentimes for empaths. And there's a lot of shame that can come into being a really sensitive person, because if we don't have a good meter in our bodies or in our brain or just in our inner knowing about what energy is or isn't ours, sometimes we are trying to heal things or take on things or distance ourselves from things that are not actually, for lack of a better word, our problem. They're not things that we should be trying to heal. So I really want to help you look at today, if you are an empath or you're someone that's really struggled with feeling like you have to caretake everyone, we're really going to be looking at empathic abilities today in terms of balance. So again, what I mean by balance is we're going to be looking at where in your energy are you feeling balanced and where are you not feeling balanced. So for instance, if we jump into story piece for a second here, my entire life, I didn't understand why I felt almost like this sense of energy always creeping into my space. It almost felt like I had holes, almost like I was a sponge, if you can visualize it. That it was like I was always feeling or taking in energy, but I wasn't really validated a lot for it. So I might go to a park and be playing tag or a game with other kids, and maybe someone falls and gets hurt and gets really upset and blames it on someone else. I would find myself in the middle of this energy of feeling someone really incredibly hurt or angry or grief, another person maybe not wanting to help that other person or frustrated that they were getting blamed. And I could feel it. It felt like a seesaw, this energy inside of me. I was like, wow, I feel this person, I feel this person. And it would kick up anxiety for me because it felt like that energy was so close in my space, and I would feel sad, right? As an empath, I was also very compassionate. I never really wanted people to hurt. In fact, it was the opposite. I was really like, how do I help people not hurt most of my life? Which some of my empaths are also the folks that are your wounded healers, your undercover healers that feel like they have to heal other people because it affects them so intensely in their space. So going back to this example, oftentimes I could feel this seesaw energy in my space. And so unfortunately, the way that I had to overcalculate that is I tried to figure out, okay, there's energy in my space. I don't know what to do. And so I would try to help everyone. And sometimes it worked out really well and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I would, sit down with the person crying and try to talk to them or make them feel better. But it wasn't from the space of trusting that the other person could heal themselves. And so this is a really important point. Besides me feeling all these energies, it was really icky for me to feel this. And so I felt like not only did I have to help this other person, but I was like, I don't want to feel this. Right? I need to figure out how to fix this so that I don't have to feel it. You don't have to feel it. If you get better, I get better. And so here begins the pattern of going outward rather than going inward. So if I'm trying to fix or heal or take care of everyone around me because I feel everything, I'm not actually going inward and holding my sovereignty. I'm not holding my frequency. I'm not actually even trusting that other people can take care of themselves. So this can be a major, major issue, especially for empaths when their strategy is to learn how to go outward, to fix, to overdo, to heal. Because deeply, I wouldn't say it's a selfishness in a way, but it's like I get to heal you in order to heal me. And even farther, I've talked about this before as well, it can become kind of a complex. So if you grow up being empathic, and you start fixing the energy around you or trying to heal it, the difficult part with that is it almost becomes part of your identity. It's a way that you get validated and there becomes an undercover codependency that can happen with empaths. So, right, if I am at a grocery store, or actually let's back up, I'll take a real life example. I was at an airport a few months ago and I was getting ready to go up an escalator and I watched this man, probably in his 70s, I would say. He was standing on the escalator and he was about to take a step onto it and he tripped and he just went down onto the escalator and he spun around. And so he was backwards on it on the ground and I just ran. It didn't really occur to me to think about anything else. I just ran onto the escalator. I dropped my bag and I immediately checked to make sure he was conscious, right? Because I'm sitting there like, okay, do we need to call someone? Did he hurt himself? Is he bleeding? And luckily he was conscious. But as we're going up an escalator, it's not stopping. So luckily he was with a couple other people and we were trying to kind of get him upright, not pull him up really quickly. But all of this was happening, right, in the system. And so luckily someone was able to stop the escalator. We were able to help him up. Luckily he was with a couple people that were able to support him. But I ended up, after walking away, I could feel the energy that I had taken on in the system, the panic, the fear, and I was just acting out of my kind of flight responses, right? Of like, something's happening, I'm going towards it, I'm gonna help it. I didn't really think about it. But afterwards, I was standing in line to go through security and I just started crying. And I was like, okay, this is a way that I realized I took on energy just by touching someone, just by feeling the interaction of the situation, and my body took it on. And so for a long time for me growing up, crying was the way that I released energy. And I think it was really frustrating to my parents because whenever I was feeling a really intense energy or a really big energy and I didn't know how to express it or communicate it or understand what was happening in me, I would just cry. And sometimes I would have anxiety attacks because there'd be so much energy trying to release and panic and shame around not being able to communicate it. That was kind of like this whirlwind. So again, taking a step back with this, the reason I'm bringing in my stories here is because as a person that identifies as an empath, I really didn't know how to balance this energy. So I didn't know how to balance going inward. When I was feeling overwhelmed, I would go outward. That was the strategy that I figured out how to really kind of ground my space. It's like if I fix or I heal or I take care of everything outside of me, then I can be okay. And then there are more strategies, ways, thoughts, ideas, all these pathways in our brain that get built in order to make sure that we're okay. You can probably see where the issue is here, right? We're never actually going inward to check in on the energy. We're just trying to fix it. So a big thing when I'm teaching people energy work or energy tools is that it can be really easy to go in, look at something, say, I don't like it, and immediately want to change our space. That can also be a form of resistance. That can also be a form of pointing at things in our system that we don't like and shaming them. So when I teach people how to do energy work, we first want to look at it. What's there? Can we look at it in a sense of neutrality? Can we look at the energy in our space if we're not sure if it's ours? And just have an experiment here. right? Just take a look at it and say, what is this? Where did it come from? What texture is it? What color? What kind of frequency does it have with it? So again, bringing you back to a core piece today, it is all about learning balance, because no one may have said this to you, so maybe I'm the first one. Hopefully someone has and I'm wrong. But being an empath is a beautiful, amazing, sensitive, radiant skill. It is amazing to be able to sense things at a higher frequency than some other people around you. Because if you can sense the energy around you and feel empowered in it, you're going to feel a lot more supported. So what I mean by that, I'm going to give you one more story before we jump into a tool here, is that the last video I talked about being at a folk festival and being an empath and feeling all this energy around it. And I ended up having an experience where late at night, a lot of people had gone to bed or were kind of taking care of things or in community. And I ended up going for a walk by myself, kind of in the dark, walking through the fairgrounds, walking through next to the river. And I sat next to these beautiful cottonwood trees that I spoke of. And they were just massive. And someone had the kind of uplighting, right? So these beautiful kind of spotlights really highlighting the canopy of the tree, really kind of painting it against this beautiful sky. And I was sitting there and I closed my eyes and I said, will you ground me? Will you remind me? Will you connect me in with the heartbeat of the earth right now? And so I closed my eyes and I had this really beautiful just breathing and connecting and really rooting in. And one of the most amazing things happened. And I feel like most people have this experience in life where there's something that we know, right? Intellectually, like our brain knows. We're like, yeah, that's an easy thing, right? 1 + 1 = 2. I know you might argue with me with that. There's a lot of theories that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, but I digress. But there's a lot of things that we know up here in the brain. We're so aware. We're like, yes, I get this. I know this. I understand this. But to have a full body experience of that knowing, of that frequency, to really feel it and believe it, it's a different thing to know something and to at your core believe something. Okay, so I'm sitting at this tree, having this really cool, energetic experience, kind of hug situation with it. And it dawns on me and occurs to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is rooting for me. Everything. Like I'm looking at this tree and feeling its energy, feeling the hum of the earth, feeling the water. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the water wants me to do well. This tree wants me to do well. Even people that I have accidentally hurt in my life or not been kind to or just wasn't in my highest alignment when interacting with them. I guarantee that if I were to go up to most of those people, even if I and we had a difficult experience at one time, if you were to take a microphone and say, hey, at the end of the day, do you hope that Xandra's well? Do you hope that she's okay? I guarantee you that almost everyone that I've come in contact with life would probably say, yeah, even if there's a wound there, even if there's a bruise there, even if we have some sort of history that didn't align, most people want us to do well. If you go to the grocery store and you were to ask all these strangers and point to you and say, do you hope this person has a good day? I guarantee most people would say yes. And even if someone's grumpy and not having a good day and they've said no, do you think they really mean it, or do you think that's actually their stuff? Right? At lower levels in the body, in terms of all the patterns that come up from us, sometimes we speak out of those places. But if we actually sit in the heart, we want good things for everyone, because we know when everyone else is taken care of and loved, we feel that back. We're not separate. So I was sitting here under this tree and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything wants me to do well. And I want everyone else to do well. I'm constantly, when I walk past people or I drive past people, I send them a soul hello and say, I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you release the things that are not in alignment so that you have more of your true essence, so that life becomes more joyful and that you get to be in it fully all the time. There is not one person that has done something to me in my life that I wish ill on. Even if I felt hurt, even if there's grumblies in my space or believies that say I'm right or wrong or whatever. Every single person in this world, even some of the people that have done a lot of harm in this world, I actually hope they have a good day, because someone that has a good day and is aligned in themselves and has a lot of power is going to do a lot for our world. So taking a deep breath with me here. Just imagine that. See if you can take that frequency in. Everyone in this world, in a heart-centered way, wants you to do well. Even if they can't show it or show up all the time, the trees, the air, the fire, all the elements, your guides, the house that you live in that protects you, the water that nourishes you, the vitamins that are going into your cells. Everything wants you to thrive. And if you can take in that energy, you allow yourself to not have to work so hard. Sometimes, and I get into this place, so I'm speaking a truth here from myself, especially when you're developing things and building things, making videos, making podcasts, there can be this like, I have to be the one to show up and to do all this energy and to make things happen. There can be this individualism, this kind of like fire creator energy. But the problem is that if you don't let everything work for you and support you, if you don't let every nice compliment that someone gives you really, really touch you and remind you how special you are, if you don't let people's goodness in, you're going to work so much harder. So much harder. And the amazing thing is, as an empath, if you can feel those energies stronger than other people, you are going to be able to tap into this web of goodness, of this frequency that's going to help you get to where you want to be. There is such a radiance in a frequency in our world, even though there's so many different energies going on, that love can actually move through all of this. And so again, as an empath, sometimes we grow up feeling so sensitive and shameful and like we can't control our space and we're overwhelmed and we don't understand what energy is ours. And all of this is a gift that perhaps you haven't said yes to, that you haven't allowed yourself to say, how do I feel empowered in this? How do I wake up in this energy from a sovereign place? Because when you hold your frequency at a certain level, you give permission to other people to show up and get a healing, right? It's like when you go to, let's see here. So I went to the coffee shop a couple days ago and my partner and I were interacting with a woman who was just kind. We had our dog with us and she was kind and telling us about her dog, which she had a similar and a different breed. And there was a sense of her being joyful and being kind and interacting. And that rubs off on us, right? We get a little soul hello and a healing as well, that connection, that beauty that can come from it. And so as an empath, if you are able to take in energy, understand what is yours and what isn't, ground out the rest and be sovereign, not only are you communicating to other people to be at their best selves and to learn how to do that as well, but you're sending energy back to people. And I've said this before, a lot of empaths feel like they have to heal the world. They feel like there could be a mistrust because maybe you've grown up in a family where people didn't know how to really hold their energy. So you either had to run from it or take care of it or heal it just to survive. There can be that survival mechanism for empaths of, I don't know how to regulate energy, so I need to remove myself. I need to really disconnect myself because I'm so sensitive. But that is so disempowering. So the reason I speak to you about this is there's another way. There's another way to really tune into your energy as a strength, as a beauty, as a radiance, to say like, wow, as an empath, I can match the frequency of that, right? You can't see it right now, but there's a bunch of plants all behind this camera right now. And there's a huge snake plant over here. And as an empath, I can actually lean in and ask to exchange energy with it. But if you haven't been empowered as an empath and know that you can match frequencies of things, it's going to feel a lot of times like you don't know what's your energy and what's impacting you. So the best way that we learn about energy is to start doing energy work. We start noticing the energies that are running through our bodies. We start noticing when I breathe, what spaces can I breathe into really easily and what spaces that I can't, right? Like if you can breathe, but you can only breathe into kind of your third chakra area, that solar plexus, but you can't breathe all the way down into your stomach, what's happening there? Right? Why can't you fully breathe into that space? What kind of is getting stuck there? What kind of resistance is sitting there? What energy is sitting there? And is that actually yours? Is that someone else's? Is that you clenching your stomach? Because maybe at work, there's a lot of people that end up coming to you and asking for advice and wanting your energy. And so you feel like you have to kind of shut down or get smaller in order to have more of your space or to protect yourself. There's so many ways that we are adapting as empaths to the energy around us without even realizing it, and it doesn't feel authentically like we get to be empowered in it. So again, my question for you before we dive into this practice is to really see, do I feel balanced in my energy? Do I feel empowered? You know, as an empath, it doesn't mean that you are able to not take on energy, right? I've been doing this work for years, and I still, after I watched this man fall on this escalator, I walked away and was like, whew, could feel the fear, could feel the sadness, could feel my heart wanting him to be okay, right? But I could also feel his fear. I could feel his people that were with him terrified, right? As they're going to get on a flight somewhere, and this man, is he going to be okay? Are we going to make our flight? Right? The sadness that can come with aging, of losing abilities. I could feel all of it. I could feel that sting, that fear. And so I can feel it now, even as I talk about it. I can remember the entire thing come up. And maybe as an empath, you're watching this and you can feel that too with me. So there's so much compassion. If you're listening to this and feeling this and tuning into that frequency, this is a gift. This is a gift for you to be able to do that, because you can see people better. You can develop compassion in you better, but you want to be able to choose, right? Sometimes I can't always help that energy comes into my space. I'm working on it and I can decide. But the cool thing is I'm able to see it and notice it because of the practice, and I move it out of my space. So again, if I'm leaning one way and I'm leaning another way, I'm actually able to look at the energy and come into my alignment. And so that's what I'm here to teach you, is to make sure that you're not looking at being an empath from a poverty standpoint, I guess, is what I would like to say with that. So what does this mean, right? How do we as empaths figure out what's our energy, what's not our energy? So I have an entire course designed for this, and I'm not going to take you through all of it right now, because it really requires that you work one-on-one with me, or you work in a group. I'm going to be putting out energy medicine groups soon, a few limited ones, so that people can actually have more support in group. I'm not going to go fully into those program pieces, but I'm going to teach you a tool that comes up in the program that can be really easy and helpful if you don't have a lot of time to necessarily close your eyes for 10 minutes and meditate, right? Or maybe you are kind of in your car and at a stoplight and you're not quite sure if what you're feeling is yours, or the person next to you, or the ambulance behind you, right? Or the person that has the stalled car over there, or the person that just tried to cut you off because they're trying to get somewhere, and you're trying not to project that they're an asshole, that even though, you know, they might have someone in the hospital that they're trying to get to. I mean, I could go on for hours. I won't do this to you, but all of that energy, right, that you're imagining is swirling around you. How do you know how much of it's yours? How do you know how much of it's your day, your kids, your partner, your family? How do you know? What if it's our world? This is how. So if you are listening to this in podcast form and you're driving or you're doing something where you can't actually shut your eyes for a moment, I would suggest pausing this or stopping this and coming back to the practice when you're in a safer space. Would not suggest doing this while you're doing something else, or if you've got kiddos running around or things like that. So feel free to pause this or pause the video until you actually have some space to yourself. Maybe there's a door between you and another person, or maybe you can put some headphones on, go on a walk, go to the park, whatever way that this is going to feel good for you to just have a little bit of space to play here. So as long as you have that space, let's jump in. So again, for some of this, I'm going to have my eyes closed. So you don't have to feel like if you're watching this video that you're going to watch me be communicating with you during it. I'm going to be closing my eyes and really kind of sending you this awareness, not only with my voice, but almost energetically, to see if you can get a picture of this. And I really want you to give yourself permission here to play and be creative. So many of the folks that I work with, when I bring up the word play, it can feel really foreign, which is why I did a video on it. But there can also be this deep grief of not being able to jump in and be creative and play, because as we get more and more into adulthood, there's this emphasis on perfection or getting it right or not having enough time, and there can be this kind of ego pressure or this kind of precision around, well, how exactly does it work? Like our analyzer comes in, and by the time like we're trying to analyze everything and get it perfect, we've actually lost our creative edge. We've actually disallowed ourselves to have fun and just see what rises. And that's actually where empathy can become intuition and become psychic skills if we let ourselves dig in and see what's there. So again, finding a good place where you can sit, where you can just be able to sit on your bed, on the floor, on the grass outside, whatever feels nourishing for you. And we're going to take a couple deep breaths here just to really settle the body, to really stop that kind of overthinking, processing mind. We're going to drop into the somatic part. So when you're ready, taking a deep breath in here. And again, another deep breath into the stomach. And again, just letting the heartbeat start moving slower, letting the whole body soften with breath, letting yourself be supported and hugged by the space around you or the chair around you or the ground, knowing that just for a second, everything is rooting for you and rooting down into the ground for you both, as one of my dear friends pointed out when I told her about this epiphany. And this is the place, as you're breathing, as you're grounding, as you're reminding yourself for a lot of permission to be creative and to play here. You're gonna imagine, just for fun, that there's a white screen in front of you. So imagining almost like you're sitting at a movie theater. Imagining walking into a movie theater. Maybe it's been a while for you, it has for me. Picking your favorite row that you sit in. Maybe that's the top, maybe that's the bottom. Grabbing yourself some popcorn, your favorite snack. And bringing the energy of relaxation in the same way that you go to a movie to learn or relax or discover or see someone else put their art out there. Bringing that same joyful, that curiosity, that play. And again, some people aren't good at visualizing. You might just feel or sense this. Absolutely fine. Let yourself really tune in to the ways that you feel and sense and know energy. So no pressure if you're seeing something, but it doesn't feel like real life. It might feel more like a dream, more whimsical or soft, maybe a little bit transparent. Really, really go with it. But on that movie screen, you're gonna make sure it's completely white, just like the projector just has light going through it. So if there's any splotches on that screen, if there's any pictures or it doesn't look kind of clean or there's any marks on it, just kind of dusting it off with your creativity. Just imagining taking your hand, almost like Matilda, dusting it off, making sure it's brand new. This is what we call your psychic screen. This is a screen that we're gonna use just to look at energy, just to experiment, just to see what comes up. So just dusting out your mind of any thoughts, of any other perception here, any expectations. Toss all that in the garbage for the moment. We are literally just in play mode. And as you're letting yourself sink into your seat with your popcorn, anything else, you're gonna imagine on this screen that just a simple speedometer appears. And this speedometer can literally be almost like that circular kind of oval shape that you see when you're sitting in your car, where it goes 0 to 120 or 140, maybe 180 if you have one of those really fast cars. But just 0 to 100 is our goal that we're gonna imagine out in front of us. And you're gonna imagine that that little gauge, almost like that little arrow, that line that kind of goes up as that accelerator goes up, we're gonna let that line really sit at 0, just resting at 0, almost like your car is turned off. And again, you can imagine 0 to 100 with increments of 10. Perfect there. Pick a color that's great for you. Pick a shape. Sometimes people pick futuristic speedometer, sometimes they pick old style. My modern folks sometimes pick a digital scale. That's also fine. So if you'd rather look at a digital scale, that's great too. We're just using this to look at the energy of things. We're looking at spiritual energy here. So just in this moment, taking a couple deep breaths into your stomach and another one into your feet on your own time, just steadying that image as you look at the screen. And as you're looking at that screen, notice what happens when I ask this question. I'm going to ask a question to you, and you're just going to sit back and you're going to see what happens to the gauge. You are literally being the observer here, and this is an experiment just to see what happens. But notice when I say this question, how much of the energy I am feeling or experiencing in my space belongs to me? And again, I'm going to ask that question again. How much of the energy I'm feeling or experiencing in my space belongs to me? And really getting curious here. Again, you might not see the speedometer, you might just feel it. Some folks that can't see the speedometer, it comes in as a knowing. See what number. See where that gauge goes. Where did it pop up to when I asked the question about how much energy in your space belongs to you? Right? Some people, that speedometer will speed up to a certain number. Sometimes folks will just kind of watch it slowly go up, almost like someone that's a good driver, slowly getting to the speed limit. Some people are more speed demons and it goes right to where it's supposed to be. Some people, they'll literally hear a number in their head, or it'll just be a knowing, right? 63. Didn't have to see a speedometer, just heard it, right? Or just felt it or sensed it. Some people got the digital scale and they might see the blue numbers light up. But just really getting curious, what was your number? What really popped up for you? Sometimes people will have the gauge and it'll jump around. It'll go to 30 and go up to 70 and then drop down to 100. Whenever our gauge jumps around, that can be our ego arguing with energy, because we've built such strategies to override our intuition that the ego immediately comes in to analyze it and to give perspective. Within 1 second, that analyzer can come in and immediately look at the energy and go, oh no, I'm feeling sadness, this is all mine, I did this, right? 100% of this is mine. Rather than maybe your intuition started at 30, because maybe there's people in your life or your family that are going through a lot and you're caring for them a lot. And so maybe 30% of what you're feeling is your own sadness or grief, but maybe it's also holding other people's, but you've decided to take it on as yours. So again, getting curious here, and if it felt like it wasn't quite a clear answer or it was jumping around, you can literally wipe off that movie screen. Imagine taking a slide out of that projector, out of that movie screen, toss it away in the garbage, make sure that screen's white again, and put a new gauge on there. Put a new gauge that you ask to be neutral. Get this gauge to be as neutral as possible. Get yourself to play and experiment here. Get rid of serious energy. And ask yourself the question, and maybe you want to learn even more closely about a certain energy. Maybe not just your whole energy field, but maybe you get more specific. So if you want to play again here, either putting a new speedometer on that screen, or if you felt like yours worked well, let that speedometer, let that gauge go all the way down to 0 again. Let any pictures or any ideas or thoughts come up that might be on that screen, let them fade off, let them kind of get erased here. And check in on a particular energy. So if I wake up and I'm feeling anxious one morning or kind of flighty, right? Even if I didn't drink coffee, and I'm wondering how much of this anxiety or depression or sadness or some of these things that are very common that a lot of people struggle with, maybe ask yourself a question about how much is the anxiety I'm feeling or experiencing? What percentage of that anxiety belongs to me? And just checking in, where does that gauge go? Picking an emotion, picking an energy that you're feeling that maybe feels sticky or difficult, or maybe is brand new in your space, checking in how much of that energy, what percentage of that energy is actually yours. And who knows, maybe that gauge goes up to 100. Maybe this is something that you're working on, it strictly belongs to you. And isn't that also important to know that if 100% of it is you, you have 100% availability to heal it, right? So if you know or see or sense an energy and 100% of it is yours, you actually have the power to heal it. Because when you can see something or sense something, you can heal it because you can see it and you have the power to do that. It's when we can't see where things come from or we don't know where their roots are that it can be very difficult and overwhelming to figure out how to heal it, especially if it's not ours, because we can't heal it. If it's not ours, we cannot heal it. It is not our energy, our lesson, our karma to heal. So if you, looking at your gauge, had 50, 60, 70% of it's yours, but half, 30, 40, 80% of it might be someone else's, this is the moment where you give yourself permission, sitting in that chair, sitting in that seat, to say, can I let any of this sadness go? Can I imagine taking some of this energy that I'm feeling? Maybe it's in my heart, maybe it's in my head, maybe it just feels kind of blurry. Can I imagine taking a hose and hosing down that energy? Can I imagine washing that energy out of my space? Can I imagine kind of digging into that space, pulling out that energy and letting it go? A lot of times when I teach people energy work, I will literally have them ground that energy into the ground. So if there's a grounding or a meditation or a breath practice you have that loosens up energy already, that helps you release, this is a good time to use it. Letting yourself release any of that energy that lights up, that doesn't feel like you or sense, or maybe your number just said 50 and you're like, wow, I thought all of this was mine and 50% is not. Imagining the freedom of taking that energy, putting it in a recycling can and letting the universe send that energy back to those people. Because by you giving energy back that's not yours, you give other people their own energy, and they need all of their energy to heal. They need all of their own energy to make the correct choice. Because if they're only holding half of their energy, they might not be making choices based off of what they're actually feeling. So now I'm gonna have you toss everything down, almost like a garbage chute. Toss the whole image of the screen, toss the whole image, whatever popcorn, finish that up, finish up the hot tamales. Movie theaters were really bougie now. I think they've got really special food, so if you were creative and got some of that, toss that away as well. And really, really taking a couple deep breaths here on your own, giving yourself a lot of credit and permission for closing your eyes, looking at energy, playing, checking in to see what energy is yours and what isn't. So taking a couple deep breaths with me here, all the way into the feet. And again, taking another one in. And then when you're ready, taking any stretches, taking any neck rolls, stretching the fingers and the toes, arching the back, taking any yawns to kind of release. And then coming back to the space. Coming back to the space around you, coming back to this video, this podcast, what other form you're listening or watching it in. And just checking in with yourself here. Was that easy? Was it hard? Did you notice judgment or the analyzer came in? Was there resistance? And again, not getting down on yourself for whatever way you experience this energy. This can be a brand new thing to look at the spiritual energy of things versus the ego or the analyzer or the intellectual idea of what we're experiencing. So checking in, is this something that happened really quick for you? Is this something where you can literally throughout your day check in and go, I'm feeling some sadness. How much of this sadness is mine? Okay, 70%. Great, I can release 30% of it. I'm gonna have a practice or a way that I let go of it. right? There was a person that I met that was trying to learn about her energy, and she worked in a really big office that had a lot of people's energies. And so as an empath, it was really hard for her to know. And so throughout the day, she would set an alarm on her phone every couple hours that just said, take a breath, look at your gauge, check in, so that she could learn about her energy better. And so she would breathe, take 5 seconds and say, how much of the energy I'm experiencing is mine? And say she got 85% mine, but 15% is not. She would check in and say, okay, what color is the energy I'm feeling that doesn't quite feel like mine? Okay, or what energy feels like I'm not sure whether it's mine? Am I feeling some sadness right now? And am I feeling like tired? Am I just feeling groggy? Right? Really looking at that energy. And she would take a piece of paper and she would write it down and she would say, releasing blank, releasing blah, blah, blah. And she had a little mason jar on her desk, and she would put that piece of paper in her mason jar and close it. And it became this space, this exterior kind of vessel outside of herself to really hold that energy so that she could literally make the intention. I'm releasing this piece. I'm releasing, sometimes if she didn't know what it was, she would say, releasing the 15% of my energy that isn't mine. Right? You don't even always have to know, but if you can sense or feel a weight or that or something's not yours, we want to let it go. So she would do that. She would put it outside of herself. So you can be creative here. If this resonated with you, what way or what kind of practice can you develop to start checking in on your energy? Because as you check in your energy and you get better and better at releasing it or understanding what you're feeling that isn't yours, you become more empowered in it. You start recognizing what's me, and you start actually not being so hard on yourself, and you stop reacting to the energy as if it's yours and feeding some of these patterns that aren't helpful, whether that's feeling overwhelmed and like you have to isolate and then you're mean to yourself, or then you're sad because it feels like you don't know how to connect with other people as well. Or, all of these strategies or thinking or behaviors that we don't actually feel good about all come from not feeling empowered or balanced in ourself here. So again, giving you permission here, if this felt aligned for you, to play or be creative. If you tried this and it felt a little sticky and there's a sense of not really knowing or understanding, really listen to it again, listen to your body. Maybe this isn't the right way to learn about energy. Maybe there's something in your space that wants something more. And if that's your story, then you should tune in next week. Actually in 2 weeks when I bring in another tool to see if this one will feel more aligned for you. But I wanted to give you all this tool as an easy way to check in, just because sometimes we don't all have 15 or 20 minutes to tap into some of the energy work that I teach people naturally. So, as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, practicing with me, bringing some play and amusement in. I hope you got something out of this. And if you'd like more resources, please feel free to check out my website, soulessencewellnesscenter.com. I keep saying I'm going to make all these podcasts and videos into blogs because podcasts and videos are timeless. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, there'll be more than 4 of them on there, so you can read this as well if you're interested. But I have a lot of other podcast videos, free offerings, things like that. And if you're a person that's struggling as an empath, someone who feels intuitive, psychic, but you really want that hands-on training, you really want to work with someone that helps you feel empowered, that helps you regulate your space, please feel free to reach out to me. I do lots of free consultation calls because it's really important for me to know if someone really wants to do this work. We really talk about it together. We take about an hour to really dive in to see, what are your goals? Is this aligned for you? And I give you my advice for what might be the best path for you. And that might not be me, but I want to make sure that everyone in this world is aligned and on their path. And that might not be me, but there's a lot of folks that I know that I can give you resources about. So please feel free to reach out if you're wanting more advice, support, or curious about this path, wanting to feel empowered in it. But regardless, thank you for checking out this video and this podcast this week. Another one will be out in a couple weeks with another tool. And in the meantime, as always, I will be sending you so much love.